As Somtachukwu grew into his teenage years, his powers began to surge with greater intensity. The changes were more frequent, and sometimes he could feel the pull of the water even when he wasn't near a river or the sea. He tried to hide it, but the signs were undeniable. His skin would sometimes shimmer with a strange glow, and his reflexes were faster than any human's. The most alarming thing was the transformation he couldn't control. His legs turning into a long, powerful tail whenever he entered water. One hot afternoon, after a long, tiring day of royal duties, Somtachukwu decided to take a dip in the royal pool. The water was cool and inviting, and he longed for a moment of peace. He stepped into the water, feeling its refreshing embrace, and before he could stop himself, the change happened. His human legs shifted and elongated, turning into a shimmering tail. The pool area, normally a quiet place of solace, suddenly erupted into chaos. The royal maids who were nearby froze in place. Their eyes widened in terror as they watched the young prince, who had always seemed so ordinary, transform before their eyes. They screamed and scattered in all directions, some of them running so fast they tripped over each other in their panic. One of the guards, standing nearby, stared in horror as Somtachukwu swam gracefully, completely unaware of the frightened onlookers. His eyes darted around the courtyard, unsure of what to do. The transformation was unmistakable. There was no denying it now. "Gods, what is this?" one maid whispered in disbelief, clutching her chest. "Get the queen! Someone go for the queen!" another maid shouted, her voice shaking. In that moment, Queen Ugama, who had been in the royal chambers, heard the commotion. Her heart skipped a beat, sensing something was wrong. She rushed toward the source of the noise, her footsteps quick and measured. When she reached the pool, she was met with a scene that stopped her in her tracks. Somtachukwu was swimming effortlessly in the water, completely unaware of the panic he had caused. His tail flicked gracefully as he swam, but his mother's heart sank as she saw the truth for the first time. Her son wasn't fully human. He was something else entirely. The queen's hand flew to her mouth as the realization hit her like a wave. The whispers of his strange abilities, the odd things that had happened in the past, suddenly made sense. She had been in denial, trying to protect him from the fear of the truth. But now it was impossible to ignore. "Somtachukwu," she called out, her voice trembling. The boy froze mid-swim, hearing his mother's voice, but not understanding the panic in her tone. Slowly he turned, his heart pounding in his chest as he saw the expression on his mother's face. It was a mixture of shock, disbelief, and something darker, fear. "Mother, what's wrong?" Somtachukwu asked, his voice soft, unsure of what had happened. Queen Ugama's eyes watered. She had always feared this day would come, and now it had. Her son, the child she had raised, was something she could not fully comprehend. He wasn't just her son. He was something else, something that no one in the kingdom could understand. She shook her head, trying to regain her composure. "You must leave," she ordered the maids and guards who had been standing in shock. Now, the palace workers didn't argue. They quickly retreated, whispering nervously among themselves. Queen Ugama remained still, her gaze fixed on Somtachukwu, who was now standing in the shallow end of the pool, his tail glimmering under the light. Somtachukwu could feel the weight of her gaze, and it made him uncomfortable. "Mother, please, what's happening? Why are you so scared?" His voice cracked, and for the first time, he felt a strange sense of vulnerability. Queen Ugama took a deep breath and slowly approached him, her heart heavy. "I've known for a long time, Somtachukwu," she said softly. "But now I see it for myself. You are not like other children. She paused, searching for words. "You are not fully human." Somtachukwu felt his throat tighten. "What do you mean? I'm still your son. I am." "I know you are my son," she interrupted, her voice thick with emotion. "But you're different. I can't deny it anymore." The truth hit Somtachukwu like a cold wave. All this time he had thought he could hide it, control it. But now the entire kingdom might know. His fear deepened as he saw the horror in his mother's eyes. "What does this mean, mother?" he asked quietly, his voice full of desperation. "What do we do now?" Queen Ugama took a long moment to answer, her heart torn. "We must protect you," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "We can't let anyone find out about this. People, they won't understand. The kingdom. They'll fear you someday." As the reality of the situation settled in, the queen's heart grew heavier. Her husband, King Icum, would have to know. But she dreaded telling him. He would be afraid too. And yet, as much as she feared the truth, she couldn't deny the love she felt for Samtachukwu. He was her son, and she would protect him no matter the cost. Just then, King Icum entered the room, having heard the rumors that had already started to spread. His face was pale, his hands trembling slightly. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice full of dread. Queen Ugama nodded slowly. "Yes, Icum. It's true." The king swallowed hard, stepping toward Samtachukwu. His eyes softened, but fear lingered in them. "You're still my son, no matter what you are," he said, his voice hoarse. "But we have to keep this a secret. If the people find out, the whole kingdom could fall apart. There are kingdoms out there that would seek to destroy you, or worse." Samtachukwu looked between his parents, his heart heavy with the weight of their words. He had always known he was different, but now the world seemed like a much darker place. Word of his transformation would spread, and with it, whispers of his strange powers. Other kingdoms, rivals to Egu, would surely hear of it and start to wonder what power the prince possessed. And if they learned the truth of his origins. "Stay hidden," Queen Ugama whispered. "We will protect you, Samtachukwu. No one can know." But in the distance, the murmurs had already begun, spreading like wildfire. People from neighboring kingdoms had already started to hear rumors of the mysterious prince who could transform into a merman. They wondered what powers he held and whether he could be controlled or if he would be a threat. Some kingdoms saw him as a potential ally, others as a danger that needed to be destroyed. As the prince's secret spread, the future of Egu hung in the balance.
Hi everyone, just a quick break to remind you to subscribe, like and comment if you're enjoying the story. Your support means so much to us. If you're a new subscriber, welcome to the Akko family. Let us know where you're watching from in the comment section. To our returning subscribers, thank you for always being here. We appreciate you. Now let's dive right back into the story.
Far below the surface of the ocean, in the hidden dark recesses of an ancient underwater cave, the last survivors of the battle against Urama and his dark army lived in constant fear. The battle had been brutal and merciless, and the survivors were few, scattered throughout the deep waters of the ocean, hiding from the wrath of Urama's dark force. 4 years they had stayed hidden, unable to venture beyond the cave that had become their reluctant sanctuary. Princess Ibi, the last of her royal lineage, had watched in agony as her parents fell during the battle. They had died fighting bravely to protect their kingdom, but in the end, their strength wasn't enough to hold back the tide of darkness. Ibi, however, had survived, and so had a handful of others who had managed to escape into the deep, murky waters. Since that day, fear had been their constant companion, and the once vibrant underwater kingdom had fallen silent, abandoned, as they waited in hiding for a miracle. Years passed, and Princess Ibi became the leader of the survivors, her eyes haunted by the memories of the battle and her loss. But there was always something gnawing at her heart, something she could never quite shake. A feeling deep inside her that her son, Samtachukwu, had somehow lived. One day, during one of the rare moments when the survivors gathered in the cave to seek guidance, the ancient octopus, their trusted seer, emerged from the dark waters. The creature had lived for centuries, its tentacles gliding silently through the shadows. The octopus's eyes glowed with an eerie light, and it spoke of a vision, of a boy far away, a boy who possessed unimaginable power. The seer's voice was low and gravelly as it spoke of Urama's growing strength, a dark force that was quickly becoming more powerful. The seer had heard rumors from a distant kingdom, rumors of a boy with powers unlike anything the world had ever seen. At the mention of the boy, Princess Ibi's heart stopped. The boy, the one with the powers, was her son. She knew it without a doubt. Her son had survived. The protective magic she had placed upon him at birth had kept him hidden from Urama's dark eyes. But now, with the darkness growing stronger, the time had come. The boy was the key to defeating Urama and restoring balance between the human world and the merfolk realm. The seer's words were clear. If Urama found the boy, it would mean the end for both the sea and the land. The boy had to be brought back to the ocean to learn the full extent of his powers before Urama could get to him. Ibi knew that it was time to fulfill the prophecy and reclaim her son. Determined, Princess Ibi set out on the dangerous journey to the human kingdom of Egu. She traveled through the vast, deep ocean, a place of both beauty and danger, until she reached the shores of the kingdom. The land above was foreign and strange to her, but she pushed forward, determined to find her son. When she finally arrived in Egu, she went straight to the royal palace, where Queen Ugama had raised Somtachukwu as her own. Ibi met with the queen, her heart heavy with the weight of what she had to do. She explained the truth about Somtachukwu's heritage, revealing that he was not of human blood, but a child of the sea, destined to restore peace between the two worlds. She explained that he had to return to the underwater kingdom to learn the full extent of his powers, and that only by doing so could he save both the land and the sea from the impending doom that Urama would bring. However, when Queen Ugama heard this, her heart broke. She had raised Somtachukwu as her own, and the thought of letting him go was unbearable. She loved him with a mother's devotion, and the bond between them was unbreakable. She refused to let him go, no matter the consequences. Princess Ibi, sensing the queen's pain, did not give up. She knelt before Queen Ugama and offered a solution, one that was both a gift and a sacrifice. "I can bless you," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "I can bless you with the gift of a child of your own, one who will carry your legacy. But in exchange, Somtachukwu must return with me to the ocean. The prophecy cannot be fulfilled without him." Queen Ugama was torn. Her heart was heavy with love for the boy she had raised, and the thought of losing him seemed impossible. But she also knew the weight of her responsibility as a queen, and the future of both her kingdom and the world hung in the balance. The queen's eyes filled with tears, and she struggled to make a decision, the weight of the choice pressing down on her like 1,000 stones. Somtachukwu, unaware of the conversation unfolding, was in the palace, oblivious to the forces at play. The queen had raised him with love, but now the truth of his origins was clear, and Princess Ibi was determined to bring him back to his rightful place in the sea. The air between the two women was thick with tension, with each understanding the gravity of the decision before them. Queen Ugama's hands trembled as she wiped away a tear. The silence stretched on, the only sound the faint rustling of the ocean breeze through the palace windows. "I can't lose him," the queen finally whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. Princess Ibi's heart ached for the queen, but she knew what had to be done. "You won't lose him. You'll always have a part of him in your heart, just as I have. But the world needs him. The prophecy needs him." It was a moment of difficult choices, and both women knew that no matter what, nothing would ever be the same again. Queen Ugama sat in her private chambers, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions after her conversation with Princess Ibi. The words echoed in her mind. Asterisk, "If you bear a child of your own, you must give Somtachuk back to me. He is destined to restore peace between the two realms." Asterisk, at first, Ugama had resisted the idea, unable to imagine life without the boy she had raised as her own. But now, with the pressure mounting, she had agreed. "Once I bear a child, I will give Somtachuk back to you," she had promised, her voice trembling with uncertainty. A week later, Ugama received the news she had longed for. She was pregnant. The kingdom erupted in joyous celebration, for it had been many years since the queen had conceived. The elderly palace physician, Mami Yuto, confirmed it with a smile that reached her eyes, and the entire palace was filled with excitement. The sound of drums, the laughter of palace servants, and the clinking of cups echoed through the halls. A grand feast was held in honor of the new life growing inside the queen, and the people of Egu whispered of the heir who would one day ascend the throne. For Yugama, the news brought mixed emotions. While she was overjoyed at the thought of a child of her own, she couldn't ignore the growing weight in her chest, the promise she had made to Princess Ibi. Could she really give Samtachukwu back? The boy she had nurtured, fed, and loved. The boy who had become her son in every way that mattered. How could she part with him, knowing that the decision would break her heart? Months passed, and Yugama's pregnancy progressed smoothly. The people celebrated with her every step of the way, their excitement growing as the due date neared. The entire kingdom eagerly awaited the arrival of the heir to the throne. But when the day finally came, when the queen gave birth to a child, it wasn't the boy they had all hoped for. Daughter. The news spread through the palace like wildfire. Yugama lay on the bed, exhausted but filled with an unexpected sense of awe as she gazed at the newborn girl in her arms. Her dark eyes were wide open, and her tiny fingers grasped the queen's hand with surprising strength. But as she held her daughter, she could sense the tension in the room. The king stood by the door, his expression unreadable, and Mommy Yuto quietly shuffled out of the room, her face shadowed with concern. Yugama's joy was tempered by the weight of tradition. In Egu, only male heirs could ascend to the throne. The laws of the land were clear, and the birth of a daughter meant that, despite the queen's desire, the throne would not pass to this child. Yugama's heart sank as she realized the gravity of the situation. The king was the first to speak, his voice low but filled with a sense of finality. A daughter. This will change everything. Yugama looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of hurt and confusion. What do you mean, my love? Our daughter is perfect. The king's face softened, but the weight of his position clouded his thoughts. You know the laws of Egu, Yugama. A daughter cannot inherit the throne. We must find a way to move forward. Our kingdom depends on it. Yugama felt the sting of his words like a dagger in her heart. She had carried this child for months, and now the world seemed to dismiss her worth because of her gender. Her daughter was just as precious as any son could have been, but the laws of Egu didn't see it that way. Then what of Samtachukwu? She asked softly, her voice trembling. She could already feel the growing pressure from the palace and the kingdom to have her child take the throne. Samtachukwu, the king sighed heavily. We cannot ignore the promise we made to Princess Ibi. But Yugama's attachment to Samtachukwu ran deeper than the king understood. She had raised him, loved him, and poured every ounce of herself into ensuring he was happy, safe, and accepted. The thought of losing him felt unbearable, like a piece of her heart being ripped away. Later that evening, Princess Ibi arrived at the palace. Yugama knew she couldn't delay the inevitable any longer. The air in the room grew thick with tension as the two women faced each other, the weight of their history and their promises hanging between them. I know this is difficult, Princess Ibi began, her voice filled with quiet urgency. But Samtachukwu's destiny is bigger than both of us. He must return to the ocean to learn of his powers before Urama finds him. If we wait too long, it may be too late. Yugama felt her throat tighten. I cannot let go of him. He is my son. Ibi's eyes softened, her expression full of empathy. I understand, Yugama. You have loved him like a mother. But the kingdom of Egu must accept that Samtachukwu is not only your son. He is a bridge between our worlds, between merfolk and humans. Only he can restore balance. You must trust me. The room fell silent as Yugama looked at the child in her arms. The tiny girl, her daughter, was a symbol of hope for the future, yet the truth of the present weighed heavily on her heart. How can I choose between my love for him and the future of our people? Yugama whispered, her voice cracking. Ibi stepped forward, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. It is not just about you, Yugama. It is about both worlds. If we fail to act, the destruction of everything we hold dear will be inevitable. Yugama closed her eyes, her heart torn in two. She had promised Ibi, but her love for Samtachukwu was stronger than anything she had ever known. Would she be able to follow through on that promise? Or would her heart break in the process? As the night wore on, Ugama and Ibi continued to talk, the weight of their decisions pressing upon them. The queen knew that the future of her kingdom, and of the merfolk realm, was at stake. But the love she felt for Samtachukwu was a force too powerful to ignore. She wasn't sure how she would let him go, but deep down she knew she had to. For the greater good. The next few days were filled with sleepless nights and whispered conversations. Ugama knew her duty, but her heart still ached with the thought of losing Samtachukwu. The time was coming to make a choice that would change everything for both the merfolk and the humans. But what would it cost her?
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to stay connected by leaving your thoughts in the comments, giving the video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you're the first to know when a new content drops. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you in the next video.